Hi there. So I haven't been live on my personal page in a while, so I figured this would be a good opportunity. With the birds chirping and the sun shining, I'm out on a walk with Buddy Love. He's over here hanging out watching me. It really is beautiful out. It's a little chilly. I wish I brought my sweater. That was my own bad. I just wanted to get my body moving. It's when I walk and move my body, I reset, I recharge. I believe everybody needs to get their bodies moving. I believe you need to move it or you'll lose it. It's been a really, really reflective past few weeks, and I don't know what everybody else is going through. I just know what I'm going through. And I figured this was the best time to just step out of my own crap and just share it, because I haven't done this in a long time. I haven't been front and center in my vulnerability, and I'm hoping this will inspire others to really reach within and be reflective in their own lives. Honestly, I may show up, I'm doing my Kundalini, I'm doing my yoga, but I struggle. I struggle daily. I'm very hypercritical of myself. I'm in my head a lot. I don't need somebody else to tell me, because I know how much is going on. And this has been a really, really trying time. And mostly because I chose to do this. I chose to step into my discomfort, to be vulnerable, and to step out of my knowing. Change is like death, y'all. And when I say that, I mean you need to honor the whole process and recognize that when you make changes in your life, it's going to be uncomfortable. But those are the conversations that need to come up. Those are the things we need to go within and we need to reflect upon. We need to be authentic with ourselves first so that we can be authentic with others. We need to be able to embrace, no matter what is going on in here, to be able to really be able to integrate it into your life. I mean, truly, I can tell you I've done a lot of soul searching. I spent years single because I knew I was not healthy for myself. That in order to enter into any relationship with another person, another human being, I myself wanted to be whole. I wanted to be healed. I wanted to be as healthy as possible so that I could attract the right person, to attract a person who is also open to evolving and growing and being a part of that what appears to be easy. But it requires work. It requires showing up daily, even when it hurts, even if things need to be said, if people need to look at their stuff, as we say. And I know my stuff isn't pretty. I've been dealing with it for years. I didn't expect anybody to come in and fix or heal me. I knew that was an internal job. So when I started my journey, and I'll tell you, it started a long time ago. I've been trying to heal since my childhood for years. The old patterns of belief, the old, hand-me-down legacies of you go along, get along. You're not supposed to show emotion. You're not worthy because you're not contributing, or there's so many old paradigms, so many old things that people used to say that we all picked up, and they're little sayings that sometimes they're conscious and sometimes they're so unconscious we don't even realize we're living from that space. And so I took a leap of faith this past year, and I'm going to tell you, it hasn't been easy. There are days I just want to cry and cry and cry. Because I want to be, that's the perfectionist in me. I want things to be perfect. I have this perfect vision. But do you know that is what holds us back from evolving and growing, is when we insist that it has to look perfect in order to move forward. But guess what? If that were the case, then my house would be renovated. My job, I would be taking that, I'd enslave myself again to the old 6 figures income. Yeah, I need money. I'm in a situation that's completely opposite what I was doing for years. And I did it because I knew I was worthy of the time. Not everybody has the blessing to be able to. I built up my life, okay? I made really good money. I invested. I bought a house. I had to sell the house when I could no longer bring in some money. So I did that. And the reason I did that was because it wasn't serving me up in Maryland anymore, and I wanted to be in a warm climate, and I knew I wasn't going back to that. So I sold my house and I bought the house I'm in now. It's free and clear. The only thing I have to do is cover the bills right now. And I don't make a lot of money. I get a VA disability check monthly. And you know what? When you have to survive month to month, you find ways to make things work. You learn ways to budget. You know what is available and what you need from month to month. I keep a track of this. And honestly, most people would think I'm just cray-cray for just saying that. And you know what? When things are meant to work out, they do. Is that like some sort of airy-fairy? Well, you know what? It's my experience. When things have gotten the toughest, something always happens to bring it into balance. Always. And I tell you that I struggle. Like one day I'll be like, how am I going to make my taxes on my home? And so, you know, there's all these distractions of life that take you out of your growth, your personal power, and it holds you down. But see, that's where we need to go within and just remind ourselves that we've got this inside. Nobody or nothing else outside of us can turn around and tell us, you need to do this. This is what is right for you, because they don't know what's right for you. Only you know what is right for you in your heart. Only you know your truth. And so for me, for years, I used to do what everybody told me I should do. My dad used to say, you need to get a good paying job. You have to have a good education. So, you know, I got a degree. I got my degree in computer systems when I was in the Air Force. And then that was the 2-year degree. And then I got the 4-year computer science degree. You know, and then I got after I got out of the Air Force, I got the high paying job with the contracting for the government with a high clearance. But I was so unhappy and unhealthy. I was having relationships that didn't make me whole, that's for sure, but that was the problem. And a lot of times I was looking for the other person to fix me or to make me feel better about myself. And then when it didn't look like it was going to work out, I was the first one out the door because I didn't want them to leave me. So there's a fear of abandonment too. So what do? Let's get out of here. Because if they abandon me, then the fear is real. But if you turn around and you leave first, then you've got that little extra edge. You've got control, or so you think. But you keep on experiencing the same thing over and over and over again. If you constantly show up doing the same thing over and over again with the same behaviors and patterns, that same scenario is going to come back to you every single time to ask you, have you learned the lesson? Can you actually confront your own shit and show up as you are and allow the person to see you and let them see you be vulnerable? See, people show up to you where you're at. If you don't show up as you are, if you don't turn around and share that hard stuff, the stuff that makes you go, what happens if they don't like me anymore? What if they do abandon me? What if I explain that this is my fear and they use that against me? Because part of my life has been that. I have experienced shit that I divulged and it was used against me. And so that is a fear. But see, if we live in the past, the theory of if I share this, then they're going to use it, then they're going to, because, you know, the mind, it's a tricky thing. It wants to be right. And so it'll hold so strong that if you show up and you believe that that person's going to do something to hurt you, then they're going to, because you've already attached to the idea it's going to happen. If you fear being abandoned and that's the space you live in, then they're going to abandon you. If you feeling you're not You're not, you got boogers running down your face. You're trying to find a sense of humor or something. That's it. I'm just blowing out my nose. It's real. It has been in my life, in my experience. I've pushed through. I've been the strong one. I'm the oldest of 3 girls. Between watching my sisters and us getting molested by a pedophile, and learning that I never wanted the life that my parents had and the fighting that they had. To watch them fight against each other and say whose fault it was when it was irrelevant. We just needed our parents to be there for us. That when you're little, and you're under certain ages, those imprints, they stay with you. And you have to sit with them, and you have to confront them and be real with them and know that that was that. They did the best they could. And I became a parent for my sisters, even though it might not, how could I have been? But I was trying to be the strong one, trying to be the one who held it all together all my life. But also reaching out, trying to find people I could relate to, people who could help me, and not knowing what that looked like or what it felt like. That my dad left during that time, and that was the abandonment I felt. And I know my sisters as well. And I don't blame them. I truly love my parents. I love them with all of my heart. I know they did the best they could. But that imprint is hard to erase. And the idea that it's always been about money in my family and showing up and making money. And, maybe there's a resistance for money. I don't know. I know I'm worthy. I do. It's just, I go through these self-doubt moments and I sit and I go, oh my God. What am I going to do? What have I been doing? Is this what I'm meant to be doing? And so I always struggled with trying to gain my dad's attention and his affection and trying to be the best at everything I could. And he could tell you that, I love you as you are. I just want you to be happy. But it didn't feel like that for all those years. Honestly, and my dad would lend me money if I need it. There's not ever been a question. But over the course of my life, I always heard, I did this for you. And he was so resistant in giving from his pocket. It wasn't about that he didn't have it, because he always did well. My dad always had money. He invested it. And honestly, I don't want any of it. I could care less. I don't care about that. But for all those years of feeling like, well, I did this for you, and him always having a list. It was a family legacy in my growing up. It was constantly what we did for you or I did for you. And my parents don't speak to each other. I know they care and hope the best for each other, but they couldn't be, they weren't civilized when we were growing up. It was always fighting. And my mother tried and she struggled, and it appeared more like she was a single mom. And I'm not outing my dad for any of this. This is just an unhealed wound of the family that clearly is, and I know I can't be the only one out there to hear the list. If you do something for someone, do it from your heart or don't do it at all. But when you start going through this list of all the things you've done for someone, that means you're attached to something in return. Whenever you do something, even if it's money related, if you lend money, Don't expect it back, because that, again, the attachment to anything is suffering. It's the root cause of suffering. But I've paid my dad back over the years. He's lent me, he's borrowed money from me too. But if it isn't just about the money, it was, look at what I did for you, to make himself feel important. And that's something I was realizing when I was walking, is, it's not, it's truly not that I think that he values money more, but that he doesn't even see his own self-worth. And so the idea that when we put a list in front of ourselves and say, look what I did for you, it's really saying, please just value me, respect me, appreciate me, because I don't know how else I bring value. And so growing up, the idea that my dad was always having a list, and the only way I can delineate it is that his own self-worth is so low that he can only equate it by money. And money was and it still is it's a constant conversation. I don't even like to talk about money because of the wound behind it. The idea that, well, when we talk about money, it's usually related to, listen, I'm willing to pay money for stuff. I'm willing to give money away. When I have money, it's never a question. I have always gifted friends and family, even when I didn't even have much, because I believe in the power of just giving from my heart. If I do it for someone, I don't do it with the attachment that I need something in return. I don't need accolades. I don't need it returned to me. If I do it because I want to. And so when I hear the list from my dad sometimes in the past, it's been like, I don't even write a list. In the past I did, because that was the old pattern. I picked it up and I used to do it. That's why I recognize it. You spot it, you got it. If you've seen it in someone else, it's because it's been in you somehow, somewhere, at some point. And that I love my dad no matter what, but it's something that it's a struggle. It's a struggle to feel like everything I ever heard about that he did for me was more important than my own personal value. And so therefore, what does that do? The idea that my dad is sitting here saying, well, look what I did for you. Don't you see what I did for you? Here's the list. It's like, did you just not love me enough to just do it without having to point it out? And honestly, my grandmother was very good at budgeting. I don't know, my grandfather passed away when I was only a year old. But my understanding is they were very generous. They did well. My dad lived during times when all he heard was about the Depression, so it's not that he struggled or had problems with money. He's always had what he needed, and he sits on it, like, and that's fine. That's his choice. That is not my place to ever judge. That is his, and I don't need it. But what I struggled with all of my life, and is coming to the point today, especially, I felt it so strongly and realized, oh my gosh, this is what it's coming back to. It's a self-worth issue again. That I value myself enough that for the past few years that I haven't been working a steady job, J-O-B, isn't about that I feel better than the job. It really isn't, because if I need to go down to Starbucks, I could do that. But what it really is for me is that I valued myself and my time to work on me and to heal myself. And not everybody has the luxury to do that. And because I've been able to do it, I've been doing it. That me showing up here isn't just because I want to be seen. It's because I want to share what I've gleaned in my life and my experience. Sure, there's plenty more for me to learn. I'm the first person to tell you that. But it's through showing up that I'm also learning about myself as well as others. By the way, it's getting chilly and I'm over here shivering. I get goosebumps, right? Tom and I started Ridiculously Authentic because we both had a true vision, and I truly still and always will believe in this more than anything. Because in my heart, that's exactly what I could have used. It's exactly what I know looking at my family, friends, we all need community to come together, to support one another and not be judged, but to hold that space, whatever you want to call that. I took a leap of faith when I asked if he wanted to come down here. He's the most beautiful man I've ever met in my life, and he has his moments, honey. I'm not going to candy coat, but I want you to know, in my life, I've never had anyone as humble, even if we flip-flop and we have our stuff, who's shown up enough to see their stuff even when they didn't see it at a moment, but to step away and to come back and go, yeah, I'm sorry. And so these past few months have been a huge adjustment for me because I wanted to open up my home, my space, as much as I possibly could to support all that we're doing, to support him, to support this relationship, to support all of it. And so it's hard for me to take it and put it into pieces. I can't. I'm sorry, I can't. To me, what we are working to bring all of y'all, the group, is also a healing for us. And there's a part of me that would like to share more of this with you all, but I won't do anything that isn't agreed upon. And so what I'm sharing with you is this. I love Tom more than I've loved anybody else. And I say that from my heart because I've never had somebody make me laugh so hard, accept me where I'm at, and all my, what some people think are cray-cray ideas of broken glass and shifting energy or holding stones and doing Kundalini yoga. And the hardest thing has been to be open and vulnerable in it, in all of it, and to share what hurt, what fear I have within me because of what I stated earlier is I fear the rejection. And sometimes I'm not as authentic with him because I have my own fears that I desire, obviously, to also want to be heard and seen. And I'm grateful I have girlfriends and I have goddesses and I know I've got all of y'all. But intimate relationships can be the hardest too, right? Especially if people come in with old relationship patterns. And so one of the ones that came up for me, and it came up this morning, I had one of my Beyond Addiction calls. One of my teachers, she reminded me after listening to what I said about, I've been struggling, I've literally been struggling, wondering, what the hell am I doing? Is all the work I've been putting in on myself even paying off? Is this really where I need to be? What do I need to do? How am I supposed to serve? And also receive that energetic monetary exchange, because that's really what it comes down to. I can see all sorts of stuff in other people, and I can see my own stuff. And that's the beauty, is that the compassion. Although I have the compassion, I'm still struggling, and I want you to know that struggle is real. But she reminded me, and I said, I've not been the happiest like this, ever. I mean, I've had some beautiful people in my life, but nobody's ever made me feel so wonderful. And one of the things I love is the goofiness and the baboofas. I would never, ever let loose like that with anybody else. But I have to tell you, there are moments when I go, that shoe's gonna drop, isn't it? My mind goes there and it goes, this is too good to be true, isn't it? What if he doesn't want to be with me? What if he decides to go? Maybe I've served my time. And that's just my internal voice. It's not truly my heart. And I know that, but that's where the mind goes, and that's why it's so important to discern between the head and the heart. Hold that thought. The old runner in me is coming out. That's how I blew my nose when I used to be a runner. Plus, I don't have tissues. I just got my pant legs. So that's something we would laugh about. See, I went into this from the start, and I had a moment, and I know exactly where I was, and what I was thinking at the moment was, do not attach, and don't have any expectations about any of this, because he's also taking a leap of faith, and it may not be what he desires or wants or needs. So I truly, when I went into this from the start, I went into this with no expectations, nor attachment to how he would be, because I had no idea what we would be like together. I mean, we spent a lot of time on video chats, and it felt good. And that's the only reason it felt good enough to say, hey, if it interests you, you're more than welcome to come down here. And so, at first he said no, and then he changed his mind, and I was excited and scared at the same time, but excited more so than anything else. And so it's been an adjustment, living together and moving forward and getting to know each other and patterns and communication, people. Conscious communication. The hard conversations we don't want to have. Not easy. Not breezy. And you have to be willing to listen. You have to be willing to look at your stuff. And when you listen, to not be reactionary, but to just listen from that other person. When we enter into communication, we have to be neutral. And that means dropping all of what you know from your past and your experiences, and not projecting them on the other person, because 9 times out of 10 we're projecting our stuff on the other person. To do it from a neutral space means holding them as a sacred being in your heart, and knowing that no matter what, it's not personal. It is their personal experience of whatever it is they feel they are sharing with you. And so where I was going with this is that it really, it's been a growing process, an evolving process. And my teacher, she said to me, and it was so sweet because I didn't look at it this way until she said it. Because I mentioned the shoe dropping, and how when things are really, really good, that sometimes I go into self-sabotage. And again, maybe I'd just say, you know what, it's too good to be true, I'm out of here. And she said, honey, you just reminded me of something growing up, that sometimes our parents would tell us things like, you're not allowed to get so excited because, this will pass or this will change, or don't get too excited. You never know. It's not going to last. You hear these old things. And she said to me, it's okay to be excited when you're happy. You deserve that. And you deserve everything. And we all do. Don't ever second guess or question yourself. You do deserve the best. Nobody can tell you what you need or you should do. If you're happy, isn't that all that matters? But there are some realities in life that take away from that and make it not less important than it is. And so I'm listening to the birds out here. Every day is a gift. And we don't know that tomorrow is even promised for us to begin with. Or the fact that we're so blessed when we have all of our limbs or our breath, and I can eat and I can walk and I can talk and I can speak and be heard. I always have a choice. We all always have a choice. Nobody's ever forcing you to do anything you don't want to do. So I really don't know what's going to happen next in my journey. But I'm trying to find my niche, what is it? How can I serve better? How can I show up for y'all? How can I show up for myself so that I can show up for everyone else better? I struggle the most with just being the best I can on a daily basis and not beating myself up about the fact that it took me so long to start my morning practice in the morning, or that I slept in because I needed the rest, but gosh, I didn't get as much done because I didn't get up as early as I needed to. I mean, the stuff that goes through my head, just little things like that. The fact that my time management, is it really a matter of, am I not budgeting my time properly? Or am I honoring myself? And truly, I do believe in being guided. And I do believe that if something doesn't work out, that yes, something bigger and better is around the corner. You gotta trust. Because if you don't, you're gonna constantly be rushing for the next thing and missing out on what is right there in front of you. That's one of my blessings and lessons that I've learned. The times that I would try to push or force myself into a situation were the worst times of my life. How many of y'all have been in relationships that you knew were unhealthy and then you just tried to keep on going through them? But then the ones that were the best, those are the ones you walked away from because you didn't know that that was what you were worthy of. So when you question the happiness, it's only because you're not used to it. It's something you never experienced. We don't know what we don't know. And when it feels good, sometimes it feels too good to be true. We're all just trying to be the best we can. And so, yeah, I've been struggling a lot this past couple of weeks with what the heck? Where am I at? What am I supposed to be doing? What's next? And I know I'm not alone. I know I'm not alone. And I want you to all know that there's no judgment. It's only the mind that does this. But I believe in not giving up before the miracle, because the miracles are always around the corner. It's just, you got to stay the course, even if it's uncomfortable. Get out and take a walk. Just It's little things in life. We need to appreciate them when we have them, because you may not have them again. And I try not to get caught up. I try not to get caught up in my mind, because let me tell you, this mind, ooh. You know what, Alberto? I can tell you right now, there's something there, because I wouldn't be going through this serious emotional shit right now. It's when I go through this that it usually isn't far around the corner. Yeah. I know, Vivian. I so agree. Don't think so much. I'm telling you though, y'all, I have got the most hypercritical mind you could ever imagine. Now, I can say that because I know it. I know that there's probably others out there that go through the same thing. But I am my worst critic. And that's why I actually have more compassion for others, because I can listen knowing, and I'm not perfect at this. I'm still growing. I mean, we're always going to grow. We're not going to ever stop growing unless we're down in the grave. Let's just put it and be real. My mind can go off on tangents like you have no idea, but I also know that my mind is actually pretty damn good. Yeah, Rebecca, I agree. Miracles are happening right here, right now. I know they are, and I trust in that. I just wish sometimes I could be more for others in a better, more supportive way. That I just, sometimes I don't feel like I'm doing enough. You know, I don't know my value. I do know my value to others does not, like, I know I'm worthy. But sometimes when you see yourself through someone else's eyes or their behavior, you don't feel the value that you know yourself within. And so if you don't feel valued by another person, there's two things that I like to do. First, I always question myself. If this person is showing up in my life this way, am I showing up in this way to myself? Because that's always the first indicator. People show up to you where you're at. And if I'm not valuing myself enough, does that mean that's why I'm receiving things a certain way? Is if I'm not valuable to someone else, does that mean that they don't value me? Am I not valuing myself at the same time? I hope that was clear. That was kind of rumbled. Let me try it again. If someone shows up and makes me feel like they're not valuing me, does that mean I'm any less valuable to myself? And let me look and check in with myself. Am I valuing myself enough? Because, for example, when I was living with my dad, I mean, I had a good nest egg of money that I did. I was generous with it. I shared it. I was gifting my dad all the time. I mean, if I went through the list, it's just, to me, it's absurd. Stuff he wouldn't buy for himself. But because I love my dad, I bought it for him, as gifts. I mean, my birthday's been forgotten for I don't know how many times. Or, oh, I did this for you, so I didn't get you a birthday present. Yeah, even this past year. This is the kind of thing I grew up with. That it was like, okay, well, I guess I'm not worthy enough to receive something out of your heart because, you did something else. Whatever, I don't know. But like when I was at the house with my dad, I would clean and clean and clean and clean and keep the house tidy. Because I did that from my heart, because I wanted the house to be clean. Yeah, we do things for ourselves, so let's not kid ourselves, people. We do it from our heart because we also get it in return for doing it. So when we do something from our heart, anytime you do anything, if it's not coming from your heart, you're just setting yourself up for suffering and failure. Now, is there such a thing as failure? No, because the lesson is in there, and there's, again, always a silver lining and the blessings and the lessons. But how many times do we have to keep experiencing the same thing over and over again to finally go, oh, I think I get it now? I notice sometimes that the lessons that I've had in my life, they show back up. And I'm like, that's a trick. I get it. That's a good one. I did a lot of things to gain acceptance for a long time. And yeah, there was an expectation, even though it might not sound like it. But back then, I think I did still have an expectation, but it wasn't a monetary expectation. It wasn't a reciprocal, you have to buy something for me type of expectation. It was the simplicity of just wanting to be loved and returned, right? So that's the irony, is that what we don't even realize is we're always expecting something in some way. It's just to what degree. For example, if you give someone a gift from your heart and they take it and they're like, oh, thank you. And maybe the body language doesn't show the thank you. It looks more like, I don't really want this. And you get a little sinking in your heart and you're like, oh, well, maybe they didn't appreciate it as much. There's always something, like each person knows for themselves. If you feel like you give something and then you're disappointed about the reaction, the response, that's on you, because that's, again, it's the expectation and the toughest part, that when you give something, you got to literally wash it out of your awareness. Just forget it. And if they come back and say, thank you, that's great, or they hug you or whatever, but sometimes we do it because we also want to be liked or loved. And I have been known to do that. But you know what I also like to do is I really do love to give. I really, truly do. It makes my heart sing. I am so happy when I clean up my home and I create a space that's loving and nurturing and supportive. I love making food. I love sharing food. Tom will tell you I'm in the kitchen standing for hours, because that's where I feel like I'm creative. I feel like I'm being able to express myself. And for me, that's from my heart, and that's love. When I make the bed, when I vacuum the floor, when I take Buddy for a walk, these things I love to do. Does it make me any less valuable because I'm not bringing in a paycheck? I don't feel that way. I feel like that's a huge contribution, but not everybody feels that way, because like I was saying about my dad, to say this is what I do is also trying to say, hey, I need you to value me and show me love, because I don't know any other way than you giving me attention through what it is that I've done for you. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of get that subtleness that even my dad may not see. That to say he did all these things, here's the list, is really saying, I don't know how else I'm valuable to you. I'm afraid that if you don't notice the list of things I've done for you, if I don't tell you and keep on reminding you of what I've done for you, then maybe you'll stop loving me. And that's scary. And that's huge. I understand that. And that's a conversation I have actually gleaned, that my dad, he's a beautiful man. I know he wants to do more, but somehow in his mind, lack mentality in our family, that he doesn't have enough. And so therefore, I don't think he feels he is enough, because he values himself according to how much he has and can offer and give and do. And that's an interesting dynamic in itself, because that doesn't make him any less loving or lovable. But because he doesn't value himself enough, or that he has enough, there's lack in all of that. And it's the time frame that he grew up in. Because he was, we can't tell somebody, even though I've heard that my dad was an only child and he had everything he needed, he lived at home until he married my mom and they moved out, that he was able to save money and all that. That's totally irrelevant. His experience is what his experience was. And so I can't say that, he had everything he needed, because if he did, he wouldn't have lack mentality. He wouldn't feel he wasn't enough. He wouldn't feel that he lacked something, right? This is how we all are, isn't it? Whatever it is we feel is missing really is not missing, but it's the experiences we had that brought us to the realization that something's not right, something's missing, even if we don't know what it is. Attention, maybe, because my grandmother and my grandfather used to go out a lot, and they used to leave him with the cousins and aunts and uncles, from my understanding. So maybe that's a big deal right there. Maybe he only knows because they provided for him. I can see it in that way. So therefore he lacked attention. And so instead of getting attention, which is what he really needed more than anything else, he received stuff that they did for him. And so yeah, I see it. I get it. I'm able to see it and get it. But it's the hard work is when you have to see your own stuff and get it. You can see other people's stuff all day long because that takes you out of your stuff. And whenever you're looking at other people's stuff, all you're doing is creating the distraction. And that's just as bad, isn't it? And so you can't be the victim when you're the one victimizing yourself, right? It's kind of an interesting dynamic. So, I'm getting cold. Did I mention I'm freezing over here? I got truth bumps, I think. So, I'm going through a lot of personal reflection. That's really what this is. I hope I'm serving y'all in whatever I'm speaking about. I don't even remember everything I've said, but I can tell you that it's definitely what's been coming up. I really don't know what to do. Do any of us? I mean, I'm the first person to tell you I don't like it when I don't have control. But guess what? One thing I've learned in all of my years of doing the hard work going in within, you don't have control even when you think you do. You can say you think you know what's going to happen, but in the end, control is just an illusion. And all of our past experiences, they only dictate what's going to happen when we're so attached to them happening. So this mind is freaking cray-cray. It comes up with all sorts of crazy scenarios. It thinks, but you're also using it to observe those thoughts. So that's why it's so important. Get this shit under control is all I'm telling y'all. Because that's what I've been working on. And even if I'm freaking out over what is or isn't going right, it's time for me to sit with it. Security, yeah. I want to feel safe and secure. I want someone to just embrace me and say, it's going to be okay. Because that's what we needed when I was a little girl and Dad left and my mom was fighting. I know that. And that's a big deal right there, because you want somebody to embrace you and say, I'm here, I'm going to support you no matter what. I love you. And Cheryl, I'll tell you what, today I could have crawled into my bed and just cried myself, because that's kind of where I was this morning. Truly. And, I can be the hard person and try to force through and push through and, do it all myself, which I've done a lot of my life. Okay, yes, I've been able to ask for money from my dad over the years, but I've always paid back, and I'm the type of person I'll pay back with, bells and whistles, because I did and I do. But that was my lesson last year. I know I can do it all, but it doesn't mean I have to. Now, putting that into practice, y'all, is not the easiest part, because you also have to have that in response, too. And sometimes it's also a matter, again, giving up control, allowing somebody to step in and actually do stuff for you, help you. And you can't have attachments to how that looks either, by the way. So if you're OCD or you have, again, those control issues, if you're going to let someone do your dishes, or if you're going to let somebody fold your clothes, or you're going to let someone wash your car. I'm just bringing up stuff. And you want it done a certain way. If you're allowing someone to help you, you got to drop the expectation of how that's going to look too. So let people show up where they're at and just allow them to be who they are. Because that's what we all want, right? If I show up, I want to be accepted where I'm at. If you show up, you want to be accepted where you're at. It really is do unto others as you want done unto you. Let your soul guide you. It sounds crazy, I know. Thank you, Carl. I appreciate you. Thank you. I love you too. You know how you'll make my day though, Carl? I'm telling you, if Carl, you go live in the group and I will join you, I will be on that in a heartbeat. That will make my day better than anything. Carl, if you go live, if you do that for me, I will join you if you're up for it. That's Tom and I's secret little wish. If Carl goes live, we have already, seriously, that is like the bomb diggity. So yeah, I call that micromanaging as well, Laura. Wanting things to be done a certain way. You know what though? Truly, if I really want something done a certain way, I'm not going to even bicker about it. I just do it. Because I don't feel like, in the past, and nobody wants to be kind of stood over and told how to do something. If you want something done a certain way, you can always go back and fix it later. But you always appreciate the person who steps in and helps you, because that in itself shows they care enough to do it, right? You were live today? Where? On your page? Carl! Ah! Okay, I want the link to that, Carl, but I still want you to go live in the group. That would make my year. Totally make my year. So, I really appreciate you all for showing up today. Truly, it was very impromptu, and I'm out here shivering on the water, and I got Raynaud's, so my hands are starting to lose the circulation. I just forgot about that. Sometimes I forget. I will try to get through all of your comments. Buddy probably would like to walk a little bit more. My stomach is acting up. My moon cycle's been way all off kilter again. Yeah, it's been emotional. It's been a lot of intuition. It's been a lot of dreams. Thank you, everyone. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. Yeah, life is what we make it, and we can no matter what's happening, it's always turning out better than we could ever imagine. Better than we could ever imagine. It just may not look like it at the time. May not feel like it at the time, but you have to go through the discomfort to get to the comfort. The growth happens, and it can be uncomfortable. Again, it's be the present, being present. My struggle really has been being more vulnerable. In public, to people in private, I usually do the work on the inside, and I can sit in front of my altar, I can do my yoga, and it really does work. It does, and I don't have to talk to anybody about it. But in the end, I can tell you, sometimes it feels good to vent. Sometimes it feels good to just share. To talk about your vulnerabilities and the pains. Because when it's out there and you're owning it, sometimes you're going to work through it even more than if you sit in a meditation. But don't give up the meditation if you think about it. Because the truth is, it really does. You got to recognize, in order to get through it, you can talk about it, but you got to sit with it still too. So no matter what I've just shared with all of y'all, I still have to sit with it. I still have to go through it and go neutral mind. Now, how do we work through this? What are we going to do next? What's the next course of action? I've got a lot of clothes I need to sell. I've got a lot of shoes and purses and bags. And oh my God, you name it, I got tons of stuff to get rid of. Because it's not serving me. And it's time to shed layers. This onion, I'm peeling. Yeah, it's all good. So thank you again. I love you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I won't know it until I know it, right? Opportunity, it's around the corner. Yeah. And I'm going into the group, Carl, so if you go live, I'm right there with you. So I'm going to go get warm and moving. Buddy is like sitting up now. He took a little nap, breather over there. So keep it raw, stay rad. I still will say that because you know what? It really is about being raw and rad and authentic. Be authentically you. And let it be ridiculous, unapologetic. Because you know what? Nothing else will do. I love you all.